reduce the number of the people who've been employed, because these people are already employed on permanent and pensionable basis. And they are civil servants, and as I said, we inherited them from the defunct local authorities, and then they came, the first-term governors did additional recruitments. So when the governor comes, out of the 2,400 people, I think the only number you'll see that we recruit in a year, you'll see in the 1 year you would have only about 100 people. So the question of how do you reduce, it's not possible, because that would mean you fire people and recruit afresh. And once people have been hired on permanent and pensionable, that is not possible to do, because you're tied by the law. Even at the national government level, even that retrenchment exercise would be pretty difficult to do. And so we would now deliberately maybe start taking action on the replacement of retiring staff who don't retire at that fast rate, or maybe on attrition. So Majority Leader, you are wrong on that issue of that we have not done anything, because if you look...
Yes. I want to find an answer. This is not Majority Leader.
I'm a Minority Leader.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much, Senator Mpai.
I beg your pardon.
It's going to be majority very soon.
Minority Leader. If you look at our absolute numbers, even when we say it's 92%, you will see that when we started off, the 92% was 2,252. And now the number has gone down to 2,126, meaning that deliberate efforts of ensuring that the numbers in terms of ethnicity are not increasing. So despite the fact that the percentage has remained the same, the absolute number has reduced in terms of the dominant ethnic community. So that is the question on the issue of 92%, and that also, I would say, as the Chair of Council, that would apply across the board, unless there is a major retrenchment drive, which is not something that would be considered at this point in time politically or as a nation. If the percentages that are there, you would only be able to increase the diversity over time, and considering that you'll only do if people retire, or if they move, or on attrition, then you would find that it will still be very slow, because you can tell that that's an average of about less than 10%. In the year 2022-2023, we recruited only 114 people out of the 2,256. So that is less, about 5%.
And how many are outside Kenya?
Yeah, and that is what we have said.
Governor, we need to make this. We need to put this country in order. There is too much of people trying to, we're having. I don't know even how I can explain it, because it's so bad in this country, and we need people to also have the identification of tribes. But you cannot, in Kirinyaga, you can't employ 200 people and you don't have other people from outside that area. It's wrong. It's wrong.
Madam, that is the point.
And that is why we are telling you to explain why a person of your caliber, having served as a cabinet minister, having served in the government for so long, and you know the ills inside there, you could be an example and lead the way by showing that your county can accommodate other people and try to fulfill the constitutional requirements.
Yes, Madam Gavanti.
You
understand what he's trying to say, right?
I understand. And I think two things. First of all, you realize that even if you look at the number of applicants, that it is very rare. Maybe the Chair Public Service
You
Board
can delegate.
yes, we can confirm this. I am not the one who recruits, but I am aware that in terms of application, over 98% of those who apply for jobs in Kirinyaga County are from one ethnic community. And I don't know whether I am wrong. Maybe the chair of the Public Service Board can respond to that.
Chair.
Yes, Senator Mofaya.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. You know, I didn't expect this committee to confront Her Excellency with so many questions, because I expected her to be above board, being the face of counties.
Welcome to QNet's world of new beginnings, where every sunrise is a promise of our commitment to you, your health, your dreams, your planet, and your community.
Remember, our kids' dreams are always going to grow.
I want to be an international actress. I want to be a rock star.
You'd like to work on TV?
Yeah.
And as parents, we have to be there to support them.
Mom, then you'll buy candies. As in seriously. So,
yeah, do my best to make sure that at least she gets to where she needs.
I'm not prepared for retirement, but right now I'm doing good. So I can give him what he wants.
75% of Kenyans are not ready for retirement.
Do not eat all that you get.
Yes. Usikule kila kitu.
Hapana.
Huh?
Wacha kitu.
Wacha kitu for the future.
Yes.
Stick around for some tips and tricks on how to prepare better for life after retirement.
We have people who are over 60. I don't know up to what age. Maybe they could be 85 years. There could be somebody who is 85. They constitute quite a number, almost 0.9%. I've also looked about the new compensation. I've not even seen even a single Naraka in Kenya, and you know we are very close neighbors. And I know there are very many people who have applied for jobs in Kenya. In Tarakanini, we have several Kenya people where I come from. So I think, Chair, we must be give an advisory note that let's love, let's embrace each other, let's have a cohesion, let's bring this country together. Let's not counties become entities of tribal cocoons.
Okay, thank you, Senator Mofaya. Senator Lumane.
Chair, I hadn't finished responding to the questions that I had been asked before.
Okay.
If I could maybe finish those
So if
questions
you are,
and then
Lumane, let her finish and then can get back to you.
just to write on to that. Again, I don't know which other response can be other than in terms of the challenges because of the inherited stuff. Maybe I should
That's
raise.
understood. You don't need to go back there.
Maybe I should raise this to Chair to respond. That it may be of interest to the senator to know that my county secretary is from Meru. He's here. And yeah, we are not talking about your specific community. I'm just saying we are talking about diversity of the country. Yeah, so it's not about yours. I'm clarifying because the impression that you're given is that all of us are from the same community. And I want to clarify, my HR director who's here is also not from Central, he's from Kisii. The director of procurement is Kamba. I don't know, I think from Makueni. And we have also amongst my CECs, we have a Luo, and my chief of staff is actually Luo, and my former chief of staff was Kisii. So I think my record shows for itself that I have no such biases, and having said that, Chair, there was a question On 2023 was 586. We surpassed what was the target for 20? We are amongst the top counties in terms of surpassing our own source revenue. The question of automation, yes, we had 69% and 31%. Submit, Chair.
Yes,
I think those were the questions that have been raised.
On the issue of 11 communities against 43.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. On the issue of the numbers, which people applying, and as it is evidence through of being dominant. There's a nonce because now again, I don't know.
Chair, I have.
As I continue, okay.
Shall I make some observations?
Yes, sir.
You know, Chair, that if you look at the 1-4, electricity and that and all these things. Kikuyus constitutes, those are minute percentages. Because the actual document says that
This issue even before. We had many counties having similar problems. My problem, in fact, is if you look at
but we are talking the same language, Honorable Chair.
no, the percentage needs 2% come from defunct county councils and municipal councils. To give you one person from each county, you've gotten the 43 communities, even one person. So tell us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, maybe Chair, to really come out on this is that which is not even signed. I didn't want it to go that direction, so let me not go.
Pete Buttigieg has had one of these fascinating rises in politics. He went from being mayor of South Bend, Indiana, a small but noble town.
I'm convinced that we're going to remember these years that we're living through right now as some of the most pivotal and transformative and important in the life of our city.
To an unexpectedly competitive presidential candidate, winning Iowa in 2020.
Thank you, Iowa!
To Secretary of Transportation.
America is building like we haven't built in more than 70 years.
And now this year, to the Democratic Party's acknowledged best-of-class communicator.
Trying to make people think that crime is up when crime is down under Joe Biden and crime was up under Donald Trump. Now, I don't know how often that gets reported on this network, so if you're watching this at home, do yourself a favor and look up the data.
And the big question, I think, for politics, for policy, for media, is who is going to help them versus who is going to use them. That is what Kamala Harris and Tim Walz represents. That is what Democrats represent. That is what awaits us when America decides to end Trump's politics of darkness once and for all.
So with an opportunity to sit down with him, I wanted to ask him a bunch of questions I have of the Democratic Party. And they begin with a concept that he wrote a book about in 2020, which is trust. The Democratic Party has lost the trust of a lot of people who once supported it. And it is presided over, endured, a sorting of Americans by trust. Donald Trump's Republican Party is a party full of people who don't trust the system, don't trust the government, don't trust Democrats, but it's become much more than that. So how does he think about trust? And what does he think government has done to lose it? What does he think Democrats have done to lose it? And what can be done to gain it back? I should say there is a rule, a law called the Hatch Act that keeps members of the government from campaigning in their official guise, which is fine. The strange thing about the Hatch Act, though, is it goes the other way too. When you're in personal mode or the mode in which you can campaign, you cannot talk about your official job. And so in order to talk with Buttigieg more widely, I was not able to ask him a number of questions I would have liked to ask him about his work as transportation secretary. But given that, we had, I think, a pretty fascinating conversation. As always, my email, ezrakleinshow@nytimes.com. Pete Buttigieg, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
So back in 2020, you wrote a book on political trust, and there are a million ways to show that it has declined. But what's your explanation for why it has declined?
So one of the reasons I think it's declined has been a kind of a feedback loop between public institutions letting people down and people then hesitating to empower those public institutions to solve their problems. So if you go back to the rise of Reaganism, you know, one of the quotes he's best known for, that the most frightening thing you can ever hear is somebody saying, "I'm from the federal government and I'm here to help." That generation of conservatives, when they took power, didn't just believe that government was the problem, his other famous saying, right? Government is the solution, government is the problem. But they also stripped away a lot of the capacity of government to solve problems. That becomes, I think, a feedback loop where if you're looking around and you're seeing, you know, crumbling infrastructure or widening inequality, you might think, oh, the government sucks at fixing these problems. And then the next time you're being asked, for example, in the course of an election to vote for a candidate who's going to make sure there's enough funding going to the government, you say, I'm not going to put tax money into the government. Government sucks. That too becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the next thing you know, these public institutions are less and less able to address things. You contrast that with what you have, for example, in Nordic countries. And I know it is always like almost exhaustingly like a go-to for liberals, right? To point to a Nordic example.
Sweden.
But importantly, one of the many, many things that would be nice for us to have that they have in Sweden is a high perception of tax fairness. Partly that's because I think they actually have a fairer tax code. But I also think there's been a virtuous cycle there where public entities have done a reasonably good job of taking care of people. People, therefore, have a relatively high level of trust that their tax dollars will be used fairly and wisely. And therefore, they allow those institutions to have the running room they need to try to solve things. I don't mean to reduce all of this to a debate over the size of government. I think one of the things that we've gotten smarter about now is how it's on the left, is that it's not just how big or how small government is. But I do think that's an example of one of the factors that was very corrosive. A more recent one, of course, is the way information moves around. There's a lot of hope with the arrival of the internet that the democratization of reporting was going to be empowering. And in some ways it was, some very important ways, like human rights abuses that were captured on smartphones could no longer be denied, right? On the other hand, what we didn't think about was that the editorial function of identifying what is true or not true, what is newsworthy or not, is dissolved or non-existent in those same online spaces, which meant that lots of different things, some true, some false, some worth attention, some questionable, were all kind of put into the same swirl and got imbibed as if they were all the same. And I think that's another example of something that's led to this world we're in now, where people don't even trust that we're in the same factual reality as one another.
So let me take these explanations in turn. I would take the first one as a policy feedback theory, right? Bad policy creates negative trust. Good policy should create positive trust. I would say I believed something more like that at the beginning of the Biden era and watched a bunch of policies that I would have thought would have created, even just for themselves, feedback loops, like the child tax credit expansion, not quite work. I was thinking about this week because in the American Rescue Plan, the Teamsters got a big helping hand. And they just declined to make an endorsement in this election, declining to endorse Vice President Harris for the first time in modernity.
And that's putting it mildly. I mean, their pensions were saved by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
So if you would have thought that policy feedback loops would work anywhere, you save the Teamsters. The Teamsters like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris better would have been about as tight a feedback loop as you could imagine. And it didn't work. And the description or the reason the Teamsters gave for not making a national endorsement was that their membership is sort of heavily pro-Trump. So how does something like that fit with the theory that people are responding here to whether or not policy seems to be helping them?
Well, part of it, an unsatisfying but I think very true answer, is time. These things don't happen that quickly. The child tax credit can take effect very quickly.